thank you all for being here today. I definitely appreciate it. I see 19 of you in the room. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For all of you who have your cameras turned on, thank you, thank you, thank you as well. Definitely appreciate it. All right. Why is that lagging? Come on. Okay. Well, here we are, financial wellness part 2. I'm excited to instruct today. I had a really good time instructing the first session. I hope if any of you were part of that first session, you enjoyed it as well. It was a good time. And I hope that today is going to be a good time as well for the next hour and a half. I see that I have 10 of you in the Nearpod room. And last I saw, there was about 19 of you, and I see more people are entering. So go ahead and jump onto Nearpod. That code's in the upper left-hand corner. HDU4M. Be sure you get on there. That's how we're doing today's presentation. And yeah, so all right, let's get moving. So for those of you who are not familiar with me, I am Crystal Cedino, and I'm the Training and Development Manager for the Native Learning Center. I am so thrilled all of you are here. I know I said that like 100 times already, but I really am. I love seeing all of our participants. I love seeing people come back. So definitely thank you. And I've been with the Native Learning Center, the Seminole Tribe of Florida, for 5 years now. Love it, very blessed, very thankful. If you don't know some of the work that we do, we provide training and technical assistance to Native Americans and anyone within within Indian country. And my specialty here is financial wellness. So I am not the knower of all things. I'm going to say that first and foremost. I am always learning. I have a gigantic pile of books right next to me that, has tons of information that I read through on a day-to-day basis and whatnot. So with that, I am BNC certified. So that means I'm Building Native Communities Financial Skills for Families certified through OWISTA Corporation. They used to be known as First Nations OWISTA. They changed over the last year. Congratulations to them. And if you're not, I would definitely recommend getting certified through them, just like to have knowledge, to have that extra certification on your background, whether you plan on using it for instructing or whatever else it may be. But it is there. And then just some personal things about me, if you weren't here part of the first session. I am obsessed with Kate Spade. Cora can definitely attest to this. I have my own podcast, which I am not going to provide the name of, but I do have that. And then I'm also the host, one of the hosts, because Cora is a co-host now as well, of the Hope of Thinga podcast, which is the Native Learning Center's podcast. And funny enough, that's how I started my own. So and then my favorite drink at Starbucks is going to be a grande iced shaken espresso with 6 pumps of classic syrup. This crazy woman loves her sugar, I suppose. And then one day I hope to own a French bulldog and or an English bulldog. My mom makes fun of me because she says they're cute ugly. So and I always tell her, no, they're just cute. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Enough of me. More housekeeping here. So here I just want to mention how the platform basically works, just a general overview. If you're viewing this through the web browser, all of your items are going to kind of appear towards the bottom when you hover your mouse. So keep that in mind. So like your microphone, your camera, and any other capabilities. If you're viewing this via the actual Microsoft Teams application, you're going to find everything more towards the top. So just keep that in mind. And then if you have any trouble, feel free to, shoot something in the chat box, and Cora will be able to help you out because she's definitely my go-to with tech support and whatnot. All right. And then again, just some more features of the app. So please feel free to use that chat box. That's how I want you guys to communicate. Please participate in all the things that I have going on in Nearpod. These presentations are really nothing without all of you. So without that participation, I can't gauge if you're learning anything or if you're, if you're grasping what I have here for the day. All right, and just another thing before we continue, a disclaimer. So the information contained in this presentation is designed for educational purposes only. Nothing in this presentation is to be construed as investment, tax, legal, or accounting advice, and is not an offer to sell or solicit to buy any financial or insurance products. I'm just providing you guys resources, guys and gals resources, and the entire presentation does not guarantee any rate of return, and any examples provided are hypothetical illustration purposes only, okay? And information contained in this presentation may not all be accurate due to changes in securities, insurance, or tax laws. I try to keep everything up to date and so on and so forth, but you know, with anything, so many updates come through that it's hard sometimes to catch them, but this should all be pretty current. And then you will not learn everything on this webinar or this virtual training. You're not. There's so many things out there to, you know, get knowledge from. Like I said, I have like 100 books stacked right next to me. So you're not going to learn everything. I'm not going to be able to present every scenario. So just please keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So with that being said, we should have all seen this course description. It was on the Eventbrite registration page. I'm not going to really go through it. It is the same thing that you should have seen on Thursday of last week if you attended. If not, it's in the presentation. Cora is going to go ahead and provide that later on so that you guys have that as a reference in PDF format. Ooh. And our objectives. So if you're part of day one, you would have seen that we've covered smart spending, which is what is a budget, values and needs versus wants, savings versus investing, creating an emergency fund, and then weekly, monthly, and seasonal expenses. I've provided other resources, books that I love, and so on and so forth. If you have any questions, if you want that presentation, let us know. We'll do our best to try and get that out to you if you didn't get it the first go around or whatever it may be. But yeah, we're here to help. So with that, day two, we're covering credit and cash versus credit, debt to income, paying off creditors, protecting your assets, selecting financial institutions, fraud prevention, co-signing, and depreciable assets, and owning multiple vehicles, which I think we all know tends to happen a lot within Indian country specifically. I mean, in general for anyone, but we do know that that is an issue that we do come across quite often. All right, so I want to do a mental health check, okay? Would you like to approve? No, I don't. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, what did you do today that made you feel good about your financial wellness journey or your spending habits? If you did anything, maybe maybe you didn't go to Starbucks, maybe you're trying to cut back on certain things, maybe you read a book, maybe you're finishing reading a book, maybe, I don't know, it could be anything. So just go ahead and jot down in there something. I want to give kudos to all of you. I want to be sure to acknowledge the progress that all of you are making within your financial journey. So go ahead and plug that in. Brought lunch to work. Yay! Love that. I made lunch today at home, so I definitely saved some bucks there. So go ahead, y'all. I see there are 15 in there. I ate lunch at home, saved money, every dollar app check-in. Awesome. I worked on my budget plan. I love that. Brought my lunch to work versus eating our cafeteria. I love that. I love that. I love that. Keep going. Give them to me. It doesn't matter if it's all the same. Feel free to go ahead and do it. I want to give all of you kudos. Brought my own breakfast and lunch for work. Checked my balances today to plan weekly spending. Yes. I did not get drinks at Sonic. Yes, you go. Had my lunch from something left over yesterday. Great. At breakfast at home. Oh, I love it. Keep going. I'm going to give you maybe another minute to go ahead and plug that in. Please, please, please. And if you already submitted, thank you so much. How exciting. How exciting. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I don't think I have 16 responses. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's about 6 of you missing. Please participate. That's what we're here for. Well, what do we have in the chat? Cora, can you tell me that?
Yes, somebody mentioned that they stayed away from Amazon.
Oh, you go. Let my family know that I would be paying bills tonight, so please don't bother me when I'm doing so. No late fees. Yes. And we're going to be talking about that. Thank you for being vulnerable. You made a menu. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. Thank you for participating. I love this. Kudos to all of you. And if you didn't have a chance to, plug it in, don't worry, there's plenty of opportunities like this one. So here I have some lag on my screen. Sorry, guys. Tell me what you know. One thing you know about credit. Please and thank you. Go ahead and plug that in. One thing you know about credit. Plug that in. And you can even use pictures, like if you want. So, there's tons of ways to use this collaboration board. That's what it's called. I needed to buy a house. Okay. Determines credit score. Okay. Not taught in high school. Amen. No, it's not. Not unless every school is different. So I will say this. Like I remember my high school, it had a class, but it wasn't like mandatory. And you had to be invited to the class. Like you had to hold a certain GPA in the school, which I didn't find very fair because I felt like that should have been information available to everyone. So that was interesting. Credit score can make your life good or really bad. Okay, helpful if you don't overdo. Okay, is it an actual debt? If it's good, you're a golden ticket for businesses. Credit utilization should be under 30%. Very good. Need to use it to increase it. Having certain types of credit will give you a credit score. Should review credit report annually. It is essential. Amen. It affects your purchase power. Credit is needed for everything these days, for the most part. Definitely at least those bigger ticket items I can definitely. And never ending work. That is correct. I mean, you could ignore it, but I don't think that's going to do you any good. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. All right, try to pay off high interest before lower rate card. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You get dinged by paying off debt. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that. I appreciate the bonus money earned when using my credit cards. Also make me feel good to see I'm responsible in looking at FICO score. Yeah, don't ever purchase when your budget can't cover it. It's interesting. There's a lot of opinions and, ways to go about using credit and so on and so forth. So like my grandmother was very big on if you don't have the money to pay it off, then you don't have the money for it. So I can definitely understand that mentality. Makes life better. It can. It definitely can. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and move forward. Thank you all for participating here. Definitely appreciate you all. Okay. So what I have here is just a basic explanation of credit. Okay. Google, our friend Google. There we go. Sorry, my screen was being all wonky. Google defines credit as the ability of a customer to obtain goods or services before payment based on trust that payment will be made in the future. So for anyone who just wanted a basic definition of that. And so what I want to do here is if you can get a raise of hands or throw it into the chat box to see who knows their credit score. So everyone in the room who knows their credit score, hit me with a yes in the chat box or a thumbs up or yeah, hand raise. I'm good with all of the above. Yeah, a celebration even. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Oh, and I have 31 today. I feel so lucky to have all of you here. All right. Great. So the question was for those, if you're like just popping in, because I know there's just a lot of things going on. Question was, do you know your credit score? Hit me with a yes or a thumbs up or a celebrate or whatever it may be. All right. I think for the most part, majority of you seem to know your credit score, which is great. If you don't, that is not a problem. Please do not judge yourself because and if you haven't, so I see someone mentioned haven't checked in a while. If you haven't checked in a while, do not worry. No one's here to judge you. I'm definitely not here to judge you. I've had ups and downs with my credit score fixing things, repairing, and so on and so forth. The really cool thing I feel like about credit, and Cora is really big on credit too, we've had these conversations before, is that it's always fixable. It is always, it's not a permanent thing. So don't feel like you're stuck in a situation. It's all about taking action and assessing, what you have going on and figuring out what can you do with it. So again, this is a judge-free zone. So, feel free to, be as candid as you like. Okay. All right. So in essence, I just want to say overall that credit's going to help you buy those fancy things, right? The house, the cars, and anything else, those big ticket items, right? Those are the main two things I think most people we think about when we're talking about credit. All right. So with that, I wanted to provide you with, and I'm sure most of you already know this, the three major credit reporting agencies, which are going to be Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. So again, these are the three major credit bureaus, and these credit reporting agencies keep track of your history of getting loans and making payments. So then they assign a 3-digit number that tells you potential lenders whether you're a risk for paying them back. Oh, awesome. Thank you all for keep sharing. So please keep doing so, but I'm going to keep going. But yeah, they assign that 3-digit number to you. It tells potential lenders whether you're a risk for paying them back. And that number that I'm talking about is your credit score. Where'd my mouse go? Sorry, guys. I have screens on screens on screens. So in essence, a low or poor credit score means it's going to be harder for you to get a loan or a credit card. And I do know this, and it's hard to also do it if you have new credit or no credit. So in essence, if you're sitting where you've never had a credit card, you've never had a loan, you never had anything, it can be difficult to try and open something up. I've experienced that. I remember when I was there was one situation where I needed, I think maybe tires for my car, and my dad thought, oh, let's maybe open up a credit card. You don't have any credit. It might be easy peasy. It was not easy peasy. That was a lie. So in those instances, I'm definitely going to recommend that maybe you go to your bank and you open up a secure card where you put a certain amount of money on there, and then from there you pay that back. And you keep making those payments and so on and so forth. And then you build that trust. And then sooner or later, you're usually offered a credit card with a set limit, and then, you go from there. But yeah, a high or good credit score allows you to qualify for better loans and credit cards with lower interest rates and more favorable items. So just keep that in mind. Your credit score carries with you through your life. You don't ever just want to sit on it. You don't ever want to just, kind of just let it go. I get that it can be scary. I get that it can be definitely overwhelming, but I don't want you to have that relationship with it. I want you to think that it's something that can be repaired, and it's something that, is positive, that's going to help you, move forward within life. So that's just where I wanted you to sit with that. Who here, just by a raise of hands or to celebrate, who knew about those three credit reporting agencies? Go ahead and toss a yes, a thumbs up, yay. I love when you all know stuff. Awesome. Great. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So as mentioned, your credit report is a key part of being able to obtain credit. So get a copy of your credit report for one of the three reporting agencies. You do get one from each annually for free. You can also go to annualcreditreport.com. And what's cool, well, right now, if you open it up, so let me see if I can get it open. Have you guys, oh, there it is. Annual credit report. So during COVID-19 pandemic, accessing your credit is important. And we all know that because I think last year when COVID first hit, I don't know if any of you recall, but there was a lot of fraud going on because of, all the issues that were happening across the board for everyone. So we talked about, if anyone has listened to our podcast, we talked about, talking to your creditors, talking to, those credit card companies or anyone that you have loans with and whatnot, and discussing like your financial situation if you were hit by not, being able to work and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm here again to provide you with resources. And so this is definitely one of those resources where you can go visit online and get that credit report so that you can stay up to date with what's going on. Because let me tell you something, if you don't look at your credit report very often, what can happen is, identity theft. You can have things put onto your credit report that aren't necessarily things that you did. Perhaps somebody else did, because they obtained information about you. So my recommendation is always to just keep on the up and up, make sure you get that annual report. I honestly check probably 2 times a year. Just depends. And then if you use applications like Credit Karma, if anyone's heard of that, I stay up to date too. They provide, I think Credit Karma only provides you with 2 of the agencies. I want to say it's TransUnion and Equifax, I believe. But in any case, definitely recommend accessing those apps and making sure that you're staying on that up and up. There's such lag. Okay. So again, just more information for you. Okay, so here we have the 5 factors that affect your credit score. By raise of hand, do any of you know or understand how your credit score is calculated? Yes. Great. Thanks, Camille. Thanks, Louise. And if you don't, that's fine. That's totally okay. Oh, yay. Yeah, it does, Camille. I agree. Okay. All right. So thank you all for answering me, or for those of you that did answer. You don't? Okay, that's totally okay. Again, no one's here to judge. We're all here to learn. So with that, as I mentioned, your credit score is a powerful number that affects your daily life in ways you might not have even imagined. More and more businesses are starting to use your credit score to make decisions about you, and your score is used to set your interest rates on credit cards and loans, even to decide whether you get approved for those credit cards and loans. So car insurance companies use your credit score as well. If you didn't know that, when you move into new apartment complexes, I'm a renter. I don't own my home or anything like that. They normally pull up a credit report. They do a credit check on you to just make sure that you don't have anything, sitting there. Like, let's say you faulted on a previous, apartment complex or whatever it may be. All that stuff shows up. So you want to really be sure to take care of things. Don't let things sit. So, okay, so FICO scores are calculated using many different pieces of credit data in your credit report. And this data is grouped into 5 categories, essentially. So payment history, which is going to be that 35%, level of debts and amounts owed, which is going to be that 30%, and then age of debt and length of credit history, which is going to be 15%, and types of credit, like new credit, is going to be 10%, and credit inquiries / credit mixed. Got a lot of information from a bunch of different places, but that'll be another 10%. So just like this image shows, this is kind of like how your credit score is comprised of. And with that, that'll give you your overall digit. Okay. So variation. So one thing I definitely want to mention is that there's going to be variations across the board, right? And by that, I mean, someone may have a longer credit history, let's say, for example, with Amex, American Express, for those that aren't familiar, but might have higher credit utilization than another person. So scenarios and variations can go on depending on someone's situation. So my credit score is not going to particularly look the same as Cora's credit score, for example, because she might have less accounts open, like I mentioned, or higher utilization, or maybe she has lower utilization, more accounts. It varies for everyone. So I wouldn't ever base how you're doing off of someone else, because everyone's situation is different. As we mentioned in the first session, we talked about needs versus wants, values, and so on and so forth. It's just kind of like that as well. All of your decisions are going to affect, all of this. So again, it's kind of like have tunnel vision. Like if you want to have the conversation with people, sure, But for yourself and your sanity, I would think we want to focus on ourselves. We want to focus on, where are we? What can we do to improve it? And, so on. All right. So the most important thing I believe to mention here is going to be pay on time, right? No more late payments. No more. We're not doing it anymore. And I get that things come up. I understand that, what I mean? Like, oh, I can't, or, whatever. Something's happened in your life, right? I feel like the most important thing is definitely to pay on time, or let your credit card company know what is on the up and up. Let them know, let your loan officers know, let them know what's happening. Because more often than not, if you've been a customer, right, that's been paying on time regularly and so on and so forth, there usually is more leniency. They're able to freeze certain things, freeze payments and so on and so forth. So contact them. Don't let things sit. Okay. And then keep things below 30% credit utilization across the board. I think that's a huge one as well. You don't want to have a higher utilization. Oh, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Lindsay. Oh, I love it. Please, if you have information, toss that into the chat. But Lindsay mentioned that they can also, let's say your loan officers or your credit agency, whatever it may be, can change your due date. So it's a little bit more flexible. Maybe you have more money in the beginning of the month than you do at the end of the month, or maybe it's vice versa or in the middle, whatever it may be. So be sure to do that. Yeah. Thank you for that. And anyone else, please feel free to share. This is an open conversation, essentially. We're all here to help one another. I would think, at least that's my consensus here. All right. And what else am I going to mention here? So do not close those long-standing accounts. Don't close them. And you can pay off your cards. But you know what I'm also going to say to you on that one? Because I did see that someone mentioned earlier, oh, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you do. I don't want you to have that relationship with credit, right? I don't want you to think that's how it goes. And I understand how that, can definitely be a thought, or, how we can end up thinking that way. But what I want y'all to do is change your mindset, change how we're thinking about things here. Like I said, credit's flexible. It's hard. It is hard. I'm not gonna, make it like, I'm not gonna put it out there as if it's an easy, venture to dive into. But with that, I think it's important to remember that it's not so like stuck, you're not going to be stuck in that situation forever. So with that, with the do not close long-standing accounts, if you've had a credit card company for, let's say, like 20 years or whatever it may be, I think it's really important to keep that open. Don't close it. That is something that does affect your FICO score and then overall your credit score. And with that, so I've got here, we got payment history, level of debt, age of credit. That's so important. So make sure that whether it's something that you don't want to be using all the time, right? So let's say you pay off that card, and then from there, you're like, okay, well, I paid it off. I don't really want to charge to it. That's fine. What I would recommend in my personal, again, this is not the end all be all or anything like that. I am not your financial advisor, but this is just based on my recommendation. Charge something to it to keep it open and fluctuating. And then from there, you'll be able to avoid, being dinged for not using it, or because sometimes if you don't use a card, the company that the card is under will close the account. So that can happen as well. But with that, like I said, try and keep some balance, if you will, but pay it off. So recently got notice from credit account that my limit would decrease if I didn't charge something. So see, things happen. I want to pull up the whole thing. Sorry. I didn't change something. If I don't use it, my limit drops, will my credit score drop? I think potentially it can. I definitely think potentially it can, because now you're affecting your credit utilization. So you're the amount, like, so let's say you had like 6,000 available, right? And you're not using it by any means or anything along those, and that's a very large number, by the way. That's not always the situation. Most of the time it's like 500, 1,000, just depends on how long you've been with the company. But yeah, if, because remember, so you had, let's say 500, I'm going to lower the number. Let's say you had 500, and because you're not using the card, they decided, oh no, now we're going to drop them to like 250. You've just lowered the amount of available credit you have which decreases your utilization ratio. So ratio, not radio, ratio. So yeah, you want to be sure to utilize them. And I know, like, you know, everyone's financial situation is different. Maybe you can't afford to use it right now. But that's where I'm going to say on a monthly basis, you do something to try and keep that up, you know? So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful. All right, moving forward. I would say have a healthy variation in essence. I emphasize the word healthy, and someone actually mentioned it earlier, which I love as well. So make sure you have a healthy relationship and you're using your credit, I want to say properly, but responsibly. That's the word, responsibly. Okay. So I don't think it's ever something that you should just go charge, you know? So don't open up a bunch of random accounts if you don't need them. Make everything have a purpose. I think I mentioned this in the first session, know where every dollar is going, or maybe I didn't, but it is a thought that comes across my head. Know where every dollar is going. Make sure you have a purpose for each credit card if you're opening up or account, whatever it may be. But yes, make sure you have a purpose for it. Bless you. And then check on terms and conditions and stipulations and base your decision on your needs. I've been in credit card trouble, as have I. As have I. I'm trying to see if anyone else mentioned everything. My grandson is 19 and has no credit history. I was told that I should add him to my credit card so that he has his own card and uses it monthly to maybe charge groceries and pay it off monthly. Then this will help him build credit. Is this true? Yes, it is. I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah, you can add them as an authorized user, right? That's what it's called. Yeah, authorized user for her. She's my also go-to on here. So, but yes, you can add them as an authorized user. It gives them a line of credit, or it's based off your credit. And then from there, just as it's mentioned there, here's the thing. I want to mention this. This is great. This is a wonderful tool if it's used responsibly. So I would only recommend doing this for those that can make those monthly payments on that. So like the groceries. So just make sure that your grandson can pay whatever he charges off to it, because what ends up happening is that you end up being responsible for whatever is not paid. So definitely a great thing to take into consideration and think about on, using and so on and so forth. But make sure that when you do this, when you allow this, it's done responsibly, and you know that whoever is going to be added to your account as an authorized user, they are responsible, because again, you're going to get stuck with it if they're not. Okay, so just be careful, just be very careful. And then what else do I have here? It's advised to put as authorized user if your credit score is good. Yes, that's another thing. You don't want to be doing that if your credit score is not great. Yeah, you don't want to be doing that if your credit score is not great. The cool benefit is that your score carries over to your child, essentially, as you know, and they're making payments and so on and so forth, and things increase on for you as well as your whoever it is that you authorize as that second user. So the authorized user inherits the main card holder's credit score, correct? Yeah, I just answered that. There you go. I did it all in one breath. But yes, yeah, they inherit your credit score, and as they make payments and as you make payments on your card, you increase your credit together, which can be a great thing. But like I said, make sure that whoever you have on there as that authorized user, they're responsible, that they are a responsible human being, and that they pay things off and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. And then also limit the amount of inquiry. So avoid, again, that all just goes back to avoid opening up unnecessary cards. Okay. Those mailer, like the flyers, the things that you get in the mail, make sure that if you're going to open up any of those accounts, that you really assess if it's something that you need, and then also if it's something that is truly beneficial to you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Anthony, my credit score is much better now compared to when I was younger. Didn't realize I had to pay for bills. Very good. I'm glad. I'm glad that it is better. I think it's all about improvement, right? Okay. So here, I just want to mention, I'm going to get to Lindsay's comment in just a second, but here I want to mention the why. So, I mean, I feel like for the most part, we've pretty much gone over. Okay, thanks, Cora. For the most part, we've gone over pretty much the importance, but let's go ahead and just dive a little bit deeper here. So why? Why is keeping up your credit so important? So first of all, affordability, applying for credit cards, purchasing a car, purchasing a house, and what you do to your credit score now directly affects what you will be able to accomplish financially later. Okay, so some things, some errors I'd like for all of you to look out for, and I'm sure you've heard these, but these are definitely things that go overlooked. Like we tend to, it happens without even realizing sometimes. So duplicate information. So sometimes accounts will appear more than once on your credit report. If this happens, take the proper steps to correct the error. And the proper steps in order to correct the error is to contact the credit agency that is listing that duplicate account onto your credit report and whatnot. You don't want double information. That's definitely not good, especially if it's something that you've paid off, which I think I'm going to touch on in just a moment. But yes, so uninvited inquiries. So everyone that's looked at your credit report over the past 2 years, is listed in the inquiry section of your credit report, and a lender will look at the number of inquiries that were made for the purpose of acquiring additional credit. So too many inquiries for the purpose can work against you when you apply for a loan. So resist frivolous applications, as I mentioned earlier, for credit, or pushy sales tactics. So sometimes I know this, I mean, I can be a bit of a sucker too. You feel pushed into something, and then you feel obligated to sign up for it, and you shouldn't feel that way. So be sure that, tell them, don't be afraid to, in essence, keep in mind that if they're the ones calling you, they're the ones that are wanting you. You don't need them. So don't be afraid to tell them, shoo fly, I don't need you. I already have my financial situation taken care of. I don't need another credit card. I don't need another loan. I don't need, you're your own best advocate. And I say this for anything. So be sure to not feel pushed into anything. Okay. And then knowledge of your credit process combined with sound spending practices can help you avoid this pitfall. Okay. And if someone has looked at your report without your permission, take the proper steps to correct the problem. It's the same thing, calling the credit reporting agencies, making a claim, so on and so forth. You really want to be sure to be paying attention to all of these things. Before I continue, I want to address some questions. So what credit card should I pay off first? High interest? So listen, so one thing I am always going to mention is that I am not here to advise you on how you should or should not continue on your financial journey. I'm here to provide you information. So what I can do is let you know that there are two methods, which I'm going to go over later, which is going to be the debt snowball and the debt avalanche method. And those are two major methods in how you can eliminate your debt. I'm going to go in depth in a little bit, but I can only tell you what I have done in the past, and what I have done in the past is the debt snowball. So essentially you're paying off your debt from smallest amount to largest. And like I said, I'm going to go into depth on how to do that, but that is what has worked for me in the past. Everyone's different. Okay. It's advice to put in your eye. I will use. Okay, I saw. That's a funny one. Until they graduate, the job's reliable. Yeah, that might be a good idea, Lindsay. Okay, awesome. I think I've addressed everything. If I haven't, Cora will definitely let me know. She nodded. Okay. So excellent recorded sessions. Yes, thank you. Oh, I love it. And the OISA team's so fantastic. That's essentially how I got certified. So yes, please plug in all the resources you possibly can. I welcome it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. So items that shouldn't be listed on your credit report anymore. So items stayed on your credit report for a specific period of time. So inquiries stay on your credit report for 2 years. If they're there longer than 2 years, you can have them removed. So contact that agency and tell them, yeah, this has been longer than 2 years. This shouldn't be listed here anymore. Okay. Delinquencies, garnishments, repossessions, court orders, evictions, and unpaid child support stay on your credit report for 7 years. So if it's still listed after 7 years, I'm going to recommend, again, that you contact the credit bureau or whoever it is that has it listed on there and make sure that it's removed. That'll help you. Bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years. So if it's past the 10-year period, again, same process, same thought that you should do. And make sure items don't stay in your report longer than necessary. That's all it essentially is. So make sure that you guys are looking, guys and gals are looking at your credit reports. Make sure you're paying attention to all that information and you're really, really honing in on what should be there and what shouldn't be there. Okay, be your own advocate. I cannot stress that enough because these banks are not going to advocate for you because they want your money. All right, so all of you should be seeing here. So this is actually straight out of the OASTA book, and I liked it. And now I want to mention here that not every credit report looks like this, okay? Not every credit report looks like this. For the most part, though, like it's gonna be in different locations and whatnot, so I do want you to keep that in mind. But I want you to pay attention to certain things here, and I'm going to do that in the next slide as well. So here, so key items I want you to look for when you're going through your credit report. So pay attention to your name, pay attention to your address, pay attention to your accounts listed on your credit report. Again, any misinformation, please take care of that. And I see that somebody has their hand up. Louise, go for it. Louise in the building? Or you can put it in the chat. Has Louise left the building? All right, I'm going to keep going then. All right. If you have a question, go ahead and throw it into the chat box. I will address it. All right. So as I mentioned, yes, pay attention to your name, your address, accounts listed. And the reason why I want you to pay attention to all of these things is because more often than not, as mentioned earlier, there will be duplicate information and you can take care of that by contacting the bureau. And there could be misspellings and you're like, well, does that really matter? I think it does. I don't want my name misspelled on my credit report. You know, there could be issues in the future. You just don't want to like ignore certain things because you're like, oh, that might not be a big deal. No, have the right information listed because who knows if there is another person with similar spelling or like slight differences in your credit report. Like you want that to reflect you. Like that's a direct reflection of you and your financial situation. So be sure that all of that's correct. Okay. So duplicate information, misspellings, incorrect addresses. Ooh. Incorrect addresses. Make sure that it has your most current address because I know like I think 2 years ago I moved quite a bit. 2 or 3 years ago I moved quite a bit, so it had the previous address, then the newer address, and then it didn't have the most recent address that I'm at now, so I've had to update that. So just be sure that you know. And I know that when we're moving, I'm pretty sure like our credit report's going to be that last thing that we are paying attention to. But you do want to, you know, maybe take a day or a moment after you move and you're like, oh, you know what, let me get all my paperwork and everything situated. And, you know, you update that information. Okay. And then there could be closed accounts, as I mentioned, that you did in fact take care of. And then essentially there could be items that should no longer be listed and so on and so forth. So I've already gone over this. So just please make sure everything's up to date. Okay. All right. And then here. So again, this is coming straight out of the OASTA book, and it's a sample credit report. So I just want to do a brief overview here of information that's listed here. So as we can see, number one question is going to be, whose credit report is this? and it's Michael Todd Irons. And if I ask these questions, feel free to, as you're looking at this, as I know this is kind of small, I tried to make it as big as I possibly could, but feel free to go ahead and, put in the answers to these. So whose credit report is this? And we can see that it's Michael Todd Iron, but you can see that his name is spelled differently in each agency. So again, like I mentioned, all of that's going to, you should have it should all be the same across the board, in my opinion. So that's what I would definitely make sure and double check. What is his address? And you should see that there's box 10, Basom, New York. And I believe there's Buffalo listed there. Again, same information across the board. Oh, no, I skipped one. Who's the date? What is the date of the report? And we can see that in the upper left-hand corner all the way at the top. So it is March 6, 2016. And then who is his employer? And it looks like it's Ironworks Co. Okay. So again, I want you to really, the whole point of me showing this to you, and we're not going to, go through every teeny tiny aspect, but I really want you to pay attention to all of these things that are listed here, because I have friends that have the same name as their parent. So juniors and so on and so forth, it tends to happen with that. Their parents' information gets put on their credit report or vice versa. So that's why it's important to check and make sure that everything belongs to you. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. And let me know if you have any questions. Yes, and I put that in the presentation as well, Lindsay. So thank you. Lindsay provided a resource Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So now what we're going to dive into is debt. Okay. And just here, what is debt? Debt's an amount of money borrowed by one party from another, and the most common forms of debt are loans, including mortgages, auto loans, credit card debt, okay? And then the question is, how did I get it? I feel like sometimes we look at our situation, our financial situation, we're like, how did that, when did I buy that? But debt's used by corporations and individuals as a method of making large purchases that they could not afford under normal circumstances, which is fine. But under the terms of a loan, the borrower is required to pay the balance of the loan by a certain date, typically several months or years in the future. So I think we're most familiar with that with home loans, car loans, again, credit cards, and so on. But how do I get rid of it? And this was a question from earlier, so I love this, and we'll get to it in just a moment. But a debt arrangement gives the borrowing party permission to borrow money under the condition that it is to be paid back at a later date, usually with interest, that APR. And I'll go in depth with that in just a moment. Any questions so far? Give me a thumbs up. You're still with me? I haven't bored you to death? Good. Thanks, Camille. All right, so what we have here, and we said we were going to discuss this, cash versus credit. And I want you all to think about these questions before you go to swipe, swipe, swipe on that credit card, or you go to open up that new loan, right? Think about the goals that you have set for your future, that you're trying to accomplish within your future, don't let I know a lot of the time, we get these kind of like tingly feelings of like, oh, I really want this though, but think long term. Does it fit within your your plan for your future? And if it doesn't, then maybe just hold off for it for right now, because that's the cool thing about your spending plan or budget and your your credit situation. It can change over time. It's not always going to be the same. You're not always typically you're not always going to have the same goals throughout the entire, let's say over the span of 5 years, right? So just keep that in mind. So do you have the cash you need for the down payment? And someone mentioned this, and I mentioned it as well, that my grandmother was very like, if you don't have the cash, then you cannot afford it. And I can, again, understand that mentality. But here, yeah, do you have the cash you need for the down payment? Do you not? Do you have to dip into your savings? Do you, again, is that going to set you back? So do you want to use your savings instead of credit? Is that something that maybe you've been putting away for, where you can use that cash versus charging to credit or opening up a loan or whatever it may be? And then, can you afford the item? Can I actually afford the item? Can I pay all of my bills that I currently have? And now adding this new item. Can I do that? Yes, no, maybe. Something to think about. Could you use the credit in some better way? Well, can you? I think that's always a really great question to ask ourselves, do I really need to be charging, my credit card for this particular item right now? No, maybe not. Okay, cool. But could you put off buying the item for a while? Again, maybe not right now. It doesn't have to be never, just maybe not right now. And then what are the costs of using credit, right? So there's something else that you have to think about as well. What's the interest? What is that annual percentage rate that's listed there for using that credit card? So just keep all of this in mind. Think about these things as you move forward and think about charging or opening that loan and whatnot. All right. Yay! Okay, activity time. So please, this is timed. You have 3 minutes to participate in this, okay? I'm gonna start it in just a moment, but the question is, what are some items you would use cash to purchase, okay? And it's open, So you have the ability to plug in whatever you want, okay? Get as creative as you'd like, but yeah, so you have 3 minutes. So ready, set, go. Oh, it did the countdown too. I love that. What are some items you would use cash to purchase with? It probably should say with, but yes. Go ahead. Plug it in. Cash. What are you going to use your cash for? Yes, I see in the chat. Okay. Food. Ooh, someone else. Tickets at a football game. Hey, if you got the cash. Lunch. Wonderful. Groceries, gas, cigarettes. I love the LOL at the end of that. We're not gonna dive down that rabbit hole. Car, maybe furniture, gas, groceries. Hey, if you've got it, if you put the money away for it, yeah, why not? Come on, guys, use Nearpod. That code's in the upper left-hand corner. You can access this through your phone too. And I see that quite a few of you plugged into the chat box as well. So I've got gas, groceries, food, kids sporting events, Starbucks, groceries. We got a little less than 2 minutes left on the timer here. Extras, Starbucks, Indian tacos, beaded earrings. Love it. Oh, Laurel, no problem. Thank you for attending the parts that you could. I hope you have a great meeting. And thank you, Carol. I appreciate your help. Food, okay. I've got about 56% participation here, folks. Let's go. Airline tickets, hotel food, household items. Oh, we have a minute. Rummage sales. Ooh, I love that. I love it. I believe Louise meant utilities, I think. Clothes, yes. Ooh, what groceries, household items, insurance, clothes, phone bill, gym payment. Cool. Items at a fair. Love that. Fuel, groceries, takeout. Small appliances, lunch, gifts. Less than 30 seconds. Less than 30 seconds. Nothing, charge it all and pay it off at the end of the month. hey, if that's something you can definitely do, I have seen it help people. It's not what but again, we're not here judging. So if it works, it works. All right. Beep, 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 beep. It's done. All right. So thank you for your participation. You're a hunter. Wonderful. Okay. Appliances, birthday presents, even. Awesome. Okay. Wonderful. All right. So now we're going to go to the next one. And now, what are some items you would use credit to purchase? And again, you've got 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, 1. Bing! Let's go. So what are some items you would use credit to purchase? And if Nearpod's not working for you, chat box is mighty fine as well. I like to utilize Nearpod. 4%. Let's see. Vehicles. Yes, definitely one of the more common. An all-expense trip to the Maldives. Can I go with you, please and thank you? I'm fun. And not a nuisance. Car, motorhome. Car, house, large appliances. Folks, just remember to please stay muted. It's so that I don't sound all distorted and funky. Car, future beach house, business expansion, vacation, online purchases, hotels, concert tickets, gas, utility bar, bills, car payment, vehicles, sewer line collapses. Oh, goodness. Vehicles, a new bed, vehicle, vacation. Okay. Auto repairs, fixed computer, large home appliances. Got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left. I'm going to start reading what's in the chat box over here. Car, application, household appliances, cars, boats, car and refinancing at a lower rate, education, family vacay, appliances, airfare for points, furniture, gas car payment, beads, using credit when you don't have the cash. Hey, that does happen. I think the important thing here too is to mention that there's no end all be all. There's, I think if we all had a manual for life, I think we'd all probably be better off maybe, because then we had some guidelines there, but we don't. So you do what works for you. You do what works for you. And you put the blinders on. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, in my opinion. All right, I got about 20 seconds left. If you haven't submitted on Nearpod. If you submitted in the chat box, thank you. That's good. I appreciate you. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. What else we got? Monthly bills, to get miles on credit card. Hey, all about those points. All right. Let's say so. Okay. Thank you for playing cash versus credit. Oh, right. So here we go. Now we're going to talk about credit cards, right? We're going to talk about the different kinds of credit cards. And if you have information that you want to share, feel free to do so. I am always thankful for more input. But here are the main types of credit cards. So we got revolving, installment, non-installment, or service credit. And revolving, think of those Amex cards with those limits, and sometimes they don't have limits. So like Amex, I think has like a gold, and I think it's quite high if it does have one, but you're required to pay it off each month and then you get the same amount back. So, but in essence, that's what it essentially is. So let's say you have a $500 limit. And then from there, you're charging $200, you're making payments monthly, and then as soon as, let's say you finish paying it off, you have that total amount back to you. And then as you make payments, a lot of the time what happens is these credit card companies will actually increase the amount that they give you. So you go from 500 to maybe 1,000, or maybe it's 500 to 750. You know, it varies with each credit card company. It's meant to, I believe it's meant to be an incentive. Essentially, you're paying it off. They see that you're responsible. Therefore, here's more. Just remember, be responsible with it. Don't get caught up in the, oh, well, now I have an increased credit, because I've definitely done this in the past. I've paid it off. I now have an increased credit card amount. Let me go to Kate Spade. Like, no, that's not how that works. Don't do that. Keep in mind your needs and wants and, you know, all of that stuff. I definitely can agree with, you know, treat yourself, but you got to keep in mind some of those goals that we have. Okay. And then installment. So that's those big ticket items. Think, you know, the house, the car, and all of that. Think loan, think borrowing for a set period of time. So normally they give you anywhere between like a 5 to 30 years. So it could be 5, 6, 15, 20, 30, so on and so forth. It goes, I don't think, and Cora, maybe like you can correct me. Haven't seen anything longer than 30 years. Yeah, no, most of the time, I don't think I've ever seen anything longer than 30 years. So, and then that 30 years usually halves. So, yeah, keep that in mind. All right. And then non-installment service credit. And I honestly, I don't come across these too often, but I do know that, you know, they exist. So if you feel, you know, it's important to mention it, but they're, you know, gas cards, utility companies will give you a certain amount of like credit to utilize. And then, because you pay it off or whatever it may be, you build a good relationship, and it's the same in essence across the board for, you know, all of these different variations of credit. Things to consider. So I mentioned APR earlier, so annual percentage rate, and APR is expressed as a percentage that represents the actual yearly cost of funds over the term of a loan. So let's say you see this on any credit card, usually whenever you go to apply. So you got approved, here's your card, they send you the information, and in there's going to be a percentage. So most credit card companies, the APR is usually rather high, so 23%, 24%, just depends. I've seen 17, 16. Again, just make sure that when you are opening a credit card, a new one, you're doing it with this in mind, keeping track of what the percentage there is listed as. And then you're also like you want to be mindful of being able to pay it off as well. So just keep all that in the back burner. Here's what I want to mention. So revolving credit cards tend to have higher APR than installment credit because of the length of time in which the money is borrowed. So for example, credit cards that you pay off monthly. So like I said, let's say you have a $500 credit limit, your APR typically tends to be higher than something like your home mortgage, which is usually, I mean, depending, I know they're pretty low right now. Percentage rates maybe 4%, 5%, 6%, you know, and if you can refinance, just a little extra tidbit there. But yes, installments usually paid again anywhere between 5 to 30 years, and they typically have the smaller percentage rate. So if you have any other questions on this, feel free to throw them in the chat. If anyone has any other resources, feel free to throw them in the chat. Yes. All right. All right. Level of debt. That scared me. All right. Earlier, I mentioned that your FICO score, at least part of your FICO score, is comprised of how high your credit utilization is. I mentioned that you wanted to be at 30% or less, and someone else mentioned that too, which I'm so proud of. I love hearing that, you know, my participants know this as well. So overall, the lower your credit utilization is, I believe that's usually the better. So especially if you're trying to purchase a home, let's just go ahead and refer to this little equation that's listed here. Okay, so in order to figure out your credit utilization, you will need to calculate the total amount of debt that you have or the total amount of available credit that you have, and you will receive your utilization percentage. So let's read through the example that's listed here. So for example, if you have a total credit limit on your available credit of $8,000 and you use $4,000, you would divide $4,000 by $8,000. You're going to get 0.5 or 0.50, whatever appears on your calculator. And you're going, or well, it says, yes, you're going to move the decimal over twice, and you're going to see that your credit utilization is about 50%. You don't ever want it that high. You want 30% or less. And I get situations come up, but like I said, 30% or less. 30% is the golden number. Okay, so just, again, keep that in your head. So if you notice that you're using more credit than you have, then there are some ways and some things that we may need to reevaluate and adjust to lower that percentage, which is okay. Again, no one's here to judge, all right? I know that I personally have been there where my utilization is much higher, much higher than, you know, what available credit I have. I remember there was one time where I had to move and I did not have the cash on hand in order to move. So I had to charge everything to a credit card. And then once I finished that kerfluffle, I ended up, you know, having to pay off, you know, what I owed back to the credit card company so that my utilization could lower. So things come up. Don't be hard on yourself. Allow yourself to have some grace. I think that's what's important here. Do not be so hard on yourself. Okay. It's all a learning process, and, you know, don't freak out. That's, I think, the main thing. Again, we can fix this. This is something that's fixable. Okay. All right. Some may also not realize that credit cards have different APR rates for charging directly with cards versus ATM cash withdrawal. Yes. So anytime you get a new credit card, the one thing I'm definitely going to recommend, or even beforehand, look up what they're going to charge you, if they have fees, if they, you know, everything and anything that you can think about. They give you this information. It's my opinion that I don't always make it so available for you to read, like it's not going to be in your face because they just want you to apply for it. But what's important is that you do your due diligence and you look up all of the things that come up with the responsibility of having that specific card. Okay. Do your homework. I'm holding all of you accountable. Tough love. All right. We are going to move forward. All right. Debt to income. All right. So we discussed credit utilization. All right. So I felt in pretty decent detail with the time allotted, at least. All right, so now we're discussing DTI, so which is debt to income, and it's the total amount of debt in comparison to the total amount of income that you have. So before we were calculating your credit utilization, so basically how much credit are you utilizing out of what is available. So here we're calculating your debt, your total debt into your total income, okay, what you bring home. All right, and I'll tell you why this is important, because this is going to affect your ability to get a loan for a home or a car or anything. Because if a lender does not believe that you're able to pay back what you know, the total amount, what they established, they're not going to give you based on like what you are already paying on a month-to-month basis. They're not going to give you that loan. Okay. Especially things like conventional loans. So in Indian country, if for those who are not aware, there is, and yeah, I'm just going to go over it now as I have it in my notes here. But there is a 184 loan. And essentially that is for Native Americans, and it is a great loan to use to either you can purchase, or I believe the other option is to not demolish, what's the word? You are renovating. There we go. Thank you, Lindsay. Yes, my brain, it just totally brought, I was like, what is the word? Renovate. Thank you. Yes, you can renovate with that loan. It's great if you want to contact, there's someone that rehabilitate that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. She's got me. All right. But yes, the loan is such a great option for those, in Indian country and whatnot. I am always going to recommend that. That actual, their DTI with the loan worked in, I believe, is 45%. Oh, it's not listed there. Yeah, but it is about 45%. So you have it higher, whereas most loans, like conventional loans, are going to require 30%. So like if, let's say you were to go to a bank, right? And you were to just go the conventional route, the bank is usually going to ask for 30%, your DTI to be 30%, no more than 30% with the loan worked into there. Whereas if you did it through the 184, you could do 45. So there's a little bit more leniency. So something to think about, food for thought. Thank you, Lindsay, coming in clutch with that word. It was like right there. All right. But yeah, so debt to income. Again, it's the total amount of debt in comparison to the total amount of income you have. And again, you need this number for lenders because they're going to assess your capacity to be able to pay back whenever whatever loan you apply for based on the percentage. LOL, no words. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm glad I'm not the only one. All right. So what we're going to do here. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go over it on this slide really quick, and then we're actually going to do it together, okay? So I really want all of you to get that practice in. So let's practice, right? So here it says Kelly earns $3,000 a month. She pays $300 a month on her student loan. She pays her entire credit card bill each month and does not owe any money. So she pays $500 a month for her car payment and $900 a month to repay a tribal loan. So please calculate Kelly's debt to income ratio. So again, what we're doing here is we're taking the total amount of debt and we're taking the total amount of income, and then we're dividing debt into income, okay? So Claudette mentioned, beware, 184 loans are very picky about people who have student loan debt. I tried to get a 184 in 2018, but I owed too much on my student loan, even though I could afford to pay my student loan, so I had to go conventional. Yeah, so all of that will definitely affect it. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Claudette. Thank you. All right, so what we're gonna do here, pull out those handy dandy smartphones with the calculators that are on them, or maybe if you just have a calculator, please pull that out. I'm horrible at math. I'm going to disclose that. They're like, how is she teaching financial limits? Well, no, you can be bad at math and still know how to work numbers. But with that, I want you to look at Kelly's total amount of debt here, and I want you to add all of that together. So key items that we're going to be looking at. Let me see. I just want to double check. Oh, perfect. Okay. So I gave 4 minutes on the clock here. Let's go. All right. So Kelly earns $3,000. So we're going to slot that into the income, right? And then she pays $300 a month on her student loan. So that's one debt, right? $300. Then she pays her entire credit card bill each month and does not owe any money. Perfect. That's useless information. And she pays $500 a month. Can this expand? No. Okay, well, the prompt reads, she pays $500 a month for her car payment. So that's another one. So 300, 500, and 900 a month to repay a tribal loan. So 359. Calculate Kelly's debt to income. So we know her. So what is her, and you can go ahead and plug this in the chat box. What is her income? It was the first sentence that we mentioned. Someone go ahead and throw that into the chat.
3,000.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Yeah, you can even open up your mic. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so now if we're calculating her debt, remember I said 3, 5, and 9. Okay. What is that going to be? Yay, thank you. Yes. Okay, now the equation is debt into income, right? So if we're taking 1,700 and dividing it by 3,000, what do we get? And you can tell me the raw number that you get. Again, calculators.
56% rounded up.
Very good. Yeah, so you should get like a 0.56 repeating with a 7 at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that decimal point over twice, and then we're going to round up. So it's 56.6, 57%. I'll take either. Did anyone answer your pod? Yay. Oh, good. Okay, yeah, awesome. Ooh, who knows? Get it, Star. All right. Okay, so the ultimate question here, right, is based on Kelly's debt to income ratio, do you think a lender would feel comfortable making Kelly a loan? You can open up your mic and put it in the chat. Anthony says no. Wikipedia says no. Jen says no. Not at this time. Yes, Lindsay, thank you. Yes, so you're right. No, not right now. And what I want us to get used to saying, so let's say you're a loan officer, right? I'm not sure what everyone's positions here or whatever it may be, but I think what we want to get used to saying is not at this time, not right now. Okay. People get really discouraged by, the standard no, and you got to admit that that is pretty common. Okay. So yes, not right now. All right. So we're going to continue here. So on the screen, you should see, let's try this debt to income ratio again. So Sherry earns $2,700 a month. She pays $200 a month on child support payments, and she has no credit card debt, but she has a $300 a month car payment. She also has a student loan payment of $150 per month. What is her debt to income ratio? And I'm going to go ahead and start the activity. So figure out what her debt to income ratio is, and then determine or let me know if you think she'd qualify for a loan. About 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. Yes, DTI is 24%. Feel free to keep answering. Awesome. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great, 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 great. Yeah, and if you want to plug it into Nearfog, please do so. Great, great, thank you all. Yeah, so I'm just going to work through the problem right now. So the total amount of debt that she has is 650, which I see the, okay, a lot of you just put yes, 24, which is great. That's fine. The income's 2,700. So then the debt to income is going to be 24. I think you get 0.07. I'm totally fine with 24%. All right. Thank you all. And if you have any questions or you need help working through this, shoot a message. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer any other questions. We're gonna get moving along because I have a few more slides left and I don't have that much time left. All right, so this was inquired about earlier. So how to pay debt down, right? All right. So we've discussed how to calculate debt and the ratio of debt and so on and so forth. So child support and any garnishments are considered debt. They can be if you're the one paying them. Yes. And it could be considered income if you're the one receiving it. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now the question is, how do I get rid of it? Now I have all this debt, or maybe I've accumulated, something came up, whatever it may be. So reduce monthly recurring debt. Avoid taking on new debt. Do not keep charging to your cards. Pay off as much debt as possible ASAP, okay? And if at all possible, increase your income. Get an additional job, get a raise. I know that this might seem unrealistic to some. We all have skills. We all have different skills and things that we can be doing. Use that to your advantage. Try and make an income off of it if, again, at all possible. Okay. All right. So this is the debt snowball case study. So this is what I was mentioning. This is what I've used in the past. It's a debt reduction strategy. Pay off debt in order of smallest to largest, rolling money from your previous payment to the next smallest balance, and use this strategy until you pay off all your debt. So essentially, I've written here, you guys can't see it, but what I've written here is, let's say you have 100, 80, and 60. That's your debt, right? Like you have 3 credit cards. So you're going to start off with 60. You're going to pay the minimum with additional. And then the rest, you're just going to pay the minimum. And then after you finish paying off that $60 debt that you have, you're going to roll over those payments from the 60 onto the 80. And then you're going to keep doing that process until you finish it off. Again, someone asked if or what's the best way to do it. It's all dependent on your financial situation. I can't determine that for you, but I have used this in the past and it has certainly worked. So again, list your debts from smallest to largest, make minimum payments on all your debts, except the smallest, pay as much as possible on your smallest debt, repeat until each debt is paid in full. Okay. And then the debt avalanche case study. So this one's for based off percentage rates, the highest interest account to the smallest interest account. So you're going down like an avalanche. Okay. So with this, again, you're going to do, it's almost like the same process. You're rolling money over as soon as you finish paying off one account, but you're doing it with highest interest versus smallest amount owed. Okay. And again, the steps: list your debts from largest interest rate to smallest, make minimum payments on all your lower interest rates, except the largest, and pay as much as possible on your largest interest rate, and repeat until all debt is paid in full. Ooh, how that would be a great thing to see, wouldn't it? Okay, moving on. All right, so here I just wanted to emphasize the importance of paying off credit card or debt off quickly. So the effects of making minimum payments and paying extra monthly. So if you pay extra on a credit card or even your home loan, you can significantly reduce the amount of money you pay over time. So in the example that's listed here on the screen, in the example that's listed on the screen, it looks like you have $1,000 of a closing balance, meaning you owe $1,000. So if you pay the minimum within your time allotted, which seems to be $25, it'll take you 5 years and 7 months. Fantastic to pay that off. And you'll have paid an estimated interest of $662. I'm sorry, we want to keep that $662 in our pockets. We don't want to pay that to the lender. So with that being said, if you were to pay an additional $68, in addition to that 25, you'll have paid this amount off in 1 year and have only paid $111 in interest. So I hope we see the difference here. You know, we want to keep those extra $551 in our pockets versus the banks and the lenders. Okay, that's what's important here. So keep in mind the importance of paying it off as quickly as you can. All right, so in summary, for some loans, you have to make sure it does not go to future payments when you pay, so make they're allocated to principal, or they just may apply to future payments. Yes, that is so true. They would have done that with my car loan. So if you contact your loan or whoever, you know, your loan is going through, what you can do is you can tell them, you can ask first, if I make an extra payment, does this go to future payments or will this go to the principal? And they'll tell you. And then from there, you can tell them, no, I want this to go to the principal. And then it'll knock down the amount of interest owed over time. And you're paying off the total amount, not interest first. Because normally they're like, no, 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 I want to collect that interest. So how do you feel about transferring balances from one credit card to another to save on interest? I've heard, I have not done it, but I've heard plenty of people who have, and they find that to be very useful and helpful. So I would say just be responsible for it. So let's say you open up a credit card, just to transfer because it has no interest over, let's say, a year or a year and 1 month. What I would do, because a lot of the time this is what happens. I feel like people have all the best intentions of paying it off within that year and 1 month, but then they don't. And now you just have another card open without having been used for the purpose that it was actually intended for. So what I'm going to recommend is that if you do that, if that is your intention, then follow suit, follow through with it. Because you want to avoid paying interest, you know, you don't want to get stuck with paying interest on something that you intended to not pay interest with. So if you do it, please be responsible, be mindful, and forge forward in that path to pay off your debt as quickly as possible. All right. So yeah, so in summary, here, just make your payments on time. And if you can't, discuss it with your loan officer. And if you are knee deep in debt, seek debt management advice from a licensed professional and try your best to avoid somebody who's going to charge you for their help. Because again, we're trying to keep money in our pockets, not out. Okay. Make a plan and don't just stare at your debt hoping that it's going to disappear, because it's not. It's going to follow you everywhere. But the good thing is that you can make a plan and you can attack it. Okay. And if possible, pay more than the minimum. We want to avoid paying more in interest. Create your budget and spending plan and follow it. Avoid charging more on those credit cards, okay? And again, if at all possible, find a way to make more money. We all have talents and things that were just sitting or maybe in our garages. I heard somebody mention a rummage sale. Sell, you know, try and make those extra buku bucks, all right? But yeah, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Sometimes money can be uncomfortable and sometimes we need to be uncomfortable, but move forward. Let's tackle it. All right. And then if you have debt problems here, just contact a nonprofit organization for consumer credit counseling services. Nonprofit. They are not making money off of you. They are not charging you. Again, the whole point is to keep money in your pocket and pay off your debt. And just don't fall prey to the fix your credit fast. You cannot fix your credit fast. This is something that's going to take time. All right. And do not fall prey. All right, and then just selecting financial institutions, some things I wanted all of you to keep in mind. So locations on accessible ATMs, are they FDIC insured? So meaning, is your money safe? Are there reasonable fees? Low minimum requirements? How is their customer service? Don't ever underestimate that. That'll make all the difference on a really bad day. Do they have online banking? Low rates, loan options, and then sorry, I'm blind. Cora's gonna yell at me because I should have gotten my eyes checked. Oh goodness. There we go. Linked accounts, that's what that says. And then additional products, perks, and services, rewards. You know, do they offer anything extra, anything beneficial to you? Not to them, to you, okay? All right. And then just really quickly, financial fraud. I want to be respectful. Oh, I got a question here for you. Okay, really quickly, banking. What are some things you love about your financial institution? Go ahead and plug it in quickly. Let's go, let's go, let's go. We're almost nearing the end. We're almost nearing the end on Nearpod. Okay, shared banking with other credit unions. Yay. Free checking. Yay. Easy to reach and resolve an issue. Yay. Online bill pay. Yay. Online payment options. Yay. Easily accessible. Yay. Waive a certain amount of HCM fees per month. Yes. Free checking. Member friendly. Good online banking system. That'll make all the difference. Keep going. I'm going to give you like another 30 seconds. Okay. Lock? I'm not sure what that is, Carol. Lower interest rates for CC and auto loans. Love the phone app. Amen. Oh, line of credit. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, they can provide that to you. Easy transfers to other financial institutions. Online banking accessible. Awesome. Love it. All right, moving forward. So financial fraud, it involves an unauthorized use of debit cards and prepayment cards, as well as such things as automated clearinghouses, transactions, electronic fund transfers, EFTs, and reoccurring charges to fraudulently obtain money or goods. Always be on guard for scammers and those who may try to trick you into giving up your credit card details. For those who don't know, the IRS does not call you. I was young once and I thought that they did, and I almost gave them my information, and then a good neighbor told me, oh, that's okay. You're welcome, Jen. Thank you for being here. Sorry for going over just a little bit. It's okay, Camille. But yeah, I fell prey to that on almost. So just be aware of what will happen. And then what I provided here on the next slide are just different ways of how, fraud can occur, those Amazon emails. Just if you're ever wondering, go to your actual account and ask, or figure out whatever it is that you received a notification from. That's always the best route. So hang up, close that email, and go into, the actual account that you have. So again, just more tips, credit monitoring services. Thank you. Cora, can you plug in that survey for me really quick? Thank you. And if you can, guys, go ahead and fill that out for me. More information on financial fraud. Yes, Lindsay. Yes, they are. So just use private browsers for online shopping. Don't trust a site just because it claims to be secure. Limit use of public Wi-Fi networks. That's a huge one these days. Secure your home Wi-Fi. Put passwords. I know we want to be friendly and let people borrow, but put passwords. Be cautious when responding to special offers, especially through unsolicited emails or a call. Okay? Just all things to keep in mind. So then here really quickly, I have co-borrower versus co-signer. I purchased vanilla cards to make online purchase. Okay. A co-borrower is different than a co-signer, and that your co-signer takes responsibility for the debt should your co-borrower default, but does not have ownership on the property that's listed. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I have my roommate here as well, guys. All right, advantages and disadvantages. So to co-sign or not to co-sign, usually the benefits are for the co-signee versus the co-signer. So just always keep that in mind. And the same thing with having an authorized buyer, just make sure that they are responsible enough to be making those payments. That's a huge responsibility. If they don't pay it, it falls on you. So just, again, be mindful. And then here, depreciating assets, they're items that the market value goes down as time passes and they become outdated and have limited lifespan and become non-operable because of wear and tear. So limit the amount that you spend on items that lose value over time or shorter lifespan. So owning multiple vehicles, especially when one functions perfectly fine in your home, electronics, office equipment, machinery, the list can go on, but you never want to, well, it's not that you never want to, you want to try and limit the amount of money that you're spending in those fields. Okay. So what you have here are Cora, do I need to click view pairs or no? Everyone should see.
If you're gonna show me.
Okay, not yet. Okay, so what you should have in front of you, this is just basically a tying everything together from the 2 sessions if you had the chance to attend the first session and then this session. Make the pairs match. So you should have some options that are listed there and you're going to connect them. So please do so. And then we should be about wrapped up. And then I can see your progress. Oh, yay! Come on, y'all. Oh, I've got a 6 out of 6. Another 6 out of 6. 1 out of 6. 5 out of 6. 1 out of 6. 4 out of 6. 1 out of 6. Come on, y'all. I know you can do it. You can do it. I believe what I did with the matching pairs was most of what was shown in today's presentation. So I tried to be fair. We're almost done. All right, I don't want to take up anyone's time too much. All right, so what you should have seen, if you can see my screen, it was DTI and that matched with debt to income. All right, and then paying your debt from smallest balance to largest balance. I put a snowball, get it? See what I did there? And then paying your debt from largest interest to smallest. I did an avalanche. All right, and then I put the chart up for the 5 factors affecting your credit. And then I also put the 3 major credit reporting agencies and my favorite name brand just for kicks and giggles. Okay. Thank you all so much. Please complete that survey. Please, please, please. This loads. So we got free resources. This was also in the first slide deck that we had last Thursday. Questions, anyone? Questions? Give them to me now. Is there first session? I wasn't able to log in. Yeah. Thank you, Cora. She's answering that for you. Oh, I'm so glad, Louise. Thank you. But if you have any questions, give them to me now. Okay. Please, please, please. I'm here to help. I'm going to hang back here. Feel free to unmute your microphone. Feel free to help us out by filling out that survey. I think I only received 5 responses last time. So please, the more the merrier. Let me know how I can improve. I know today we went a little bit over, so I'm very sorry. But thank you for sticking out till the end. Thank you. Thank you. Complete that survey. Please and thanks.